Okay, so now we're going to look into some of our effects. The first effect that I'm going to show you is a simple cross dissolve effect. Now this is a preset in Premiere that makes it really simple for us to create a cross dissolve. A cross dissolve happens between two clips that are next to each other, in which one fades out and one fades in. Now we did this manually with the pen tool, but there's also an effect for that too. So to find your effects, look for your project window, and next to that there are some more tabs, one of which is the effects tab. In the video transitions folder, when you click that little arrow down, you'll see that you have a bunch of folders inside of that. Inside the dissolve folder, we have the cross dissolve effect. To apply this, you simply click and drag and drop onto the seam between those two clips. If I hit play, I can see how that happens. I can zoom in with my plus key, and I can actually extend this cross dissolve in or out on either clip. So if I wanted it to be a more gradual dissolve, something like that, I can do that as well. So you can manipulate that any way you wish. I can pull it out even more, so that those two clips slowly dissolve into one another. You also have transitions like dip to black, which is basically just fading to black, which you can do with your pen tool, or you can also do with this effect. So all it does is it starts black and then it fades in, just like that. So you can do that with your pen tool as well. Okay, so the next effect I'm going to show you is this blur effect. So to begin, I'm going to go ahead and take that off. Okay, so let's take a look at my clip right now. Okay, so it dips to black, or it starts to black and it fades into the image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my effects folder again. You can see I have video effects and video transitions. We were just in transitions to find that cross dissolve. If we go into effects, we have a bunch of other effects that we can use on our clips. I would recommend that you guys spend some time experimenting with some of these because there are a ton, and I'm only going to show you how a couple work. So the one I'm going to use is called a Gaussian blur, and it happens to be in the blur and sharpen folder. So in order to apply this effect, I just click and drag and drop onto into the file I want it to affect. So that's the same as adding your dissolve. But we can see that if I scroll through this clip, nothing has been blurred at all. And that's because I have to actually tell the effect what to do. So if I double click, or if I click and select my clip, over here behind your source window, you'll have a window that's called Effect Controls. And that is exactly how it sounds. It controls the effects that you add to your clips. So we can see that I have Gaussian blur effect, which I added from the effects folder. And right now the blurriness is 0, and that's because I haven't done anything with it. If I simply click on these numbers and move the cursor to the right or to the left, I can increase or decrease blurriness. I also have this option to repeat edge pixels. You can see the edge gets kind of black. I also have another option which allows me to choose whether the blur effect is horizontal, vertical, or both. I'm going to go with horizontal. So that's a simple effect that is then applied to the whole image. If you wanted to maybe have something start very blurry and then come into focus, though, you need to tell the effect how to do that. So to do that, you have to have a kind of idea of the trajectory of the effect itself. So I know what I want to have happen is it to start very, very blurry. And then about 2 seconds in, I want it to start to come into focus. So the first thing I need to do is figure out at what blurriness do I want this to start. I want it to be totally blurry. So I'm gonna pull that as far as I can. Once I've decided how blurry I want this effect to start, I need to determine where I want that to start. So do I want the blurriness to start in the middle of the clip or at the very beginning of the clip? And in this case, I want it to start at the very beginning. So I'm going to move my playhead here. This is very important that your playhead is wherever you're going to create the command. So I've moved my playhead to the beginning of the clip. And right next to the blurriness option, we have this little toggle animation time clock. And what this does is when you click it, you're telling the effect that you want to start an action. So when I click it, you can see that at the same time this little diamond pops up, and that's a keyframe. And what that means is I've told the computer and the effect that I am beginning an action with this keyframe. I still need to create the endpoint. To create the endpoint, we move the playhead to the point at which we want the effect to be complete. So what complete means in this case of the Gaussian blur is that it's going to come into focus, which means the blur effect is going to go away. So I just click and drag this all the way to 0 because that's how I want it to end. And once I do that, it automatically creates a keyframe. And it does that because I already told the computer that I want the effect to start here and then I want it to end here. So if I hit play, we can kind of see how that unfolds. So we went from very blurry to in focus. Now once we've made these keyframes, we can kind of change them around. I could pull these in closer so that it's only blurry for a short amount of time. So this action, this creating an animation with your effect, is something that you can do with a lot of the effects in the effects folder. And they all happen the same way. So you make sure that when you select your effect, you drop it on your clip. Once you drop it on your clip, you come over to the effects control panel. And then it is here that you tell the effect what to actually do to the clip. So in this case, we can change the blurriness, we can change horizontal or vertical. And then I can also use these little toggle animations to make the effect happen in time. So it doesn't happen to the whole clip, it happens to a particular part of the clip that I want it to happen to. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is how to control your images. So this particular clip I do not have an effect on, but you'll see when I go to the effects control panel, there's some effects that are already there. It's because these effects are already built into the clip itself. And these effects are motion, which has to do with position, scale, and rotation. Opacity, which we talked about earlier. So you can affect it with that little yellow line like we were talking about, or you can come over here and start to affect it manually that way. Again, it has a toggle animation, so you can create something that starts and stops with that as well. I want to talk about position and scale. So in order to manipulate this, you can always come over here and you can start changing the position of your clip. I can also change the scale. But I can also do it by selecting my clip down here in my timeline, and then moving up to my canvas and double clicking on that image. And now I have a wireframe around that image. I can pull it at the corner to expand its scale. I can hover at the corner and rotate it. And I can click in the middle and pull it to change the position. And you'll see as I do that here in the right window that the information here is changing along with it. So there's a couple ways to manipulate your clips this way. But I want you to think about when you have a clip. When I have a clip that is not the full 100%, I start to make some new things available to me, some new images become available. And that is that one clip can be seen in front of or behind another clip. So, for example, you see I have these layers just like in Photoshop, and this clip happens to be on top of this clip here. And now I can actually start to see them together. So if I go ahead and select this top clip and double click here, I can move it around on top of this clip. And I can do the same thing with this. So I could make this smaller too, and I could actually start to make a split screen sort of effect. If you start clicking and you can't get your wireframe for some reason, you can always select the clip and go over to your effect controls panel and manipulate it here. Okay, so these are just a few of the effects, but we have many more over here. Some of the ones I want to point out, if you type into your search bar here the word flip, you have the option to apply a horizontal flip or a vertical flip. And so it simply does what it says. So right here I have, she's walking this way. Let's say I want to do a vertical flip. I just click and drag, and now it's upside down. It's simple as that. We also have if you type in the word black, you have a black and white filter that you can use. And again, it works the same way. Just click and drag, and you can start to see these effects build up. If for some reason I've added so many effects and I want to see what it looks like without one, I can click this little FX button, and it will take that clip away, or that effect away, leaving all of the other effects there. So like I said, there are many effects in the video effects, so I would recommend just going through here and kind of playing with them. Another important one that I'll show you real quick I'll show you on this image here, is called the fast color corrector. So if you just type in the word fast in the search bar, it'll come up, fast color corrector. Click and drag that onto your clip. And what this does is allows you to change a lot of things really simply. So I can see the fast color corrector here, and we can start to see a color wheel, and then I also have some other information, input levels, saturation. So let's play with saturation for a minute. It's at 100%. To desaturate means to take color away. So you can see that it starts to become black and white slowly. Now if I go the other way, it's going to intensify that color even more. I also have, I can start to create more contrast with my levels. I can also start to change the hue with this color wheel. So this is the center of where the clip is right now. And I can start to pull that towards some of these other hues to create a new kind of color palette if I choose. Okay, so that's it for effects for now. We are going to talk about titles next.